So thanks, Deb, for agreeing to interview me. I've known you, I don't know how long, but pretty much all of my business life, which is...
I kind of want to think it's that 10 years thing.
Definitely around the 10-year mark. And when we meet up, we always have such great conversations. And one of our conversations recently with myself, you and Lucy, I thought, there should be a podcast, I wanted to do something special for the 10th business birthday, and I thought, who better to interview me than you? And let's just do some reflection and looking forward. I have no idea what you're going to ask me, and that's really how I wanted it to be. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your questions. Put me in the hot seat.
I like putting people in the hot seat. So, yeah, I mean, as you said, we had a discussion, and it was a great kind of business discussion, wasn't it? A great working lunch. So thank you for asking us. It felt like a real privilege to be part of your 10-year celebration for your business, which, let's face it, is a huge achievement. And so, yeah, I wanted to prepare some questions because I didn't, although we could chat for England, as we know, both about business and everything in the world that's going on, really. But I thought, no, we really do want to focus on kind of what you've achieved and, celebrate 10 years. So, looking back, it's been an incredible journey, I'm sure you'll agree so far, certainly from someone on the outside looking in, it certainly looks that way. So what do you think in that last 10 years has been your greatest business accomplishment so far?
Goodness. It's really hard to pinpoint one thing. And every time I think that's the thing, something else happens. It's when I started the business, I had no idea the doors that the business would open for me. So obviously, for people who don't know, I do employment law and HR, and most people think that's quite boring, but necessary. I happen to think it's not boring.
You make it definitely not boring. I think that was definitely my view before I met you, Gemma. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is really not only interesting, but crucial.
Yes, both of them definitely crucial. And I always say I think it's really interesting. But aside from doing the business, I've now managed to wear so many other hats, which were never, ever a consideration. So, I remember the first time I did a bit of radio, and that was with Paul Andrews, Business Bunker. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on the radio. And then I was on another show, and then I did a bit of TV, and then someone asked me to be on a board. So I just feel as though, and even like the speaking as well, that was never part of the plan. So I just feel as though being in business has given me opportunities and platforms that I could never have imagined.
Yeah, and I'm certainly witnessing part and some of your journey. It does feel like you regularly accomplish something that people think, wow, that is an achievement. So it's really good to hear that, one, you recognise that you've accomplished a lot, but it'll be interesting to see what the next 10 year holds in terms of more, because I know we all know there's more to come with Jemma. So, so hitting this at 10 years business anniversary, it's a massive milestone. I regard it, and I should imagine the whole of the entrepreneurial business regard it as a huge success, because as we know, businesses fail in the first 5 years, and that percentage is really quite high. So, do you regard yourself as successful?
Oh, I mean, yes, I do, not to be coy about it. When I've been thinking the past few weeks, when I've been thinking about 10 years, and it's kind of people's reactions, they go, well, how long have you been in business? I go, 10 years. They go, oh, you're established now, no longer a baby business. But I've probably only thought that in the past few weeks. But like everything, there's so much more that I want to achieve. So, yes, I am proud of what I've done, and I'm proud of what the business has done for me and others, but it doesn't stop there.
Are you clear in so you say you've got other things that you would really love to achieve, but probably both personally and for Orchard Employment Law, is there kind of a specific thing that you could hang your hat on and say, when I've done that, I will regard myself and my business as wholly successful? Or
Absolutely not. I don't think that. I don't think so. I think that is part of the problem. Is that you're always looking at the next thing. Although I am learning, I recently read a book, I think it's called 10X is Better Than 2X, don't know if you've read it. And there's a section in there called The Gap and the Gain. And it talks about how most entrepreneurs and sports people live in the gap. But I haven't done this yet. Yeah, but I haven't got that. and that fuels them. But you need to learn to live in the gain and look back and just, look at how far you've come from, point A to point B, as it were. So I'm trying to live in the gain more than the gap these days.
That's perfect. And that's a great way to recognise and celebrate the wins, which the fact that you are celebrating your 10-year anniversary, it's like hats off, because a lot of businesses don't recognise the achievements that they've had, and they don't celebrate them. So if you hadn't started Orchard Employment Law 10 years ago, what other business might you have started?
Oh, so I had a business. I always say Orchard Employment Law was my first business, but it's not strictly true.
Oh, you see, we're drawing out these interesting facts.
I had a business. So when I was 30, which obviously wasn't that long ago, we had a party for my birthday, and I remember my mum saying to me, I'm really struggling to get some chair covers. They're really expensive. And she told me the price. I was like, I just feel like I can buy them for cheaper. So I bought like 300 chair covers, and then somebody in my neighbouring village was selling sachets. They were clearing their chair covers business and sold 40 different colours worth of sachets, and I bought those. So for a few years, I had this side hustle where I was hiring out chair covers and sachets for weddings and birthdays and other events.
Wow, we did not know this. So, we could have had Jemma the wedding planner then. That could well have been the business.
It's hard work, so maybe not.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think anyone in the wedding industry will completely hold their hand up to that. So, So looking back over your business journey so far, and you'll no doubt receive loads more advice going forward, but what was the best piece of advice that you've received in the last years, and who was that from?
The best piece of advice was probably about networking. I think it was from Ash Lawrence. I did the Millionaire Mindset course many years ago, and he talked about building your network, really understand building your network, and not necessarily to gain, but also to give and build relationships. I think in terms of networking, some people don't get it right because they're looking for the sale. Whereas I think myself and others, we're just looking for a relationship. And if something comes of it, then fantastic. So I think that's probably one of the best bits of advice I've had so far.
Yeah, no, and I think networking has been key to building your business, would you say?
100%, yeah. Definitely key to building my business. And, even now, recently I had a call from somebody, and, well, I didn't take the call, but someone in my office took the call, and they said, well, we know Jemma. I, met her 8 years ago. She probably doesn't remember me. I always remember people. I might not remember the name, but I'm gifted with remembering faces, and I usually remember some sort of fact about them. So as soon as the person said who they were, and I was like, oh, yeah, I know that person. So you just see 8 years later, it's still growing fruit, really.
Yeah, and it's ingrained almost in your, in your business DNA that you use networking, to benefit. But as you say, to share your generosity as well. I mean, we've definitely witnessed that. So interestingly, in terms of kind of that networking aspect, because one of the things that I certainly see in the business world is this role models in the networking arena. And research has actually shown how important and significant, really, that role models are in shaping our success as entrepreneurs and business owners. And of course, you are, without a doubt, a real role model for working women and small business owners. So can you kind of put your finger on, have you had any specific role models, and who inspires you now, knowing what you know, of course?
Who inspires me now? I'm looking at the likes of Emma Greedy. I think she's very, she's like a down-to-earth girl, but absolutely knows her stuff.
Yeah.
And dresses fabulous.
Well, obviously. It's always a factor, right?
Candice Brathwaite, another woman that I see myself in. She's one of the reasons why I started my fitness journey. So those influencers are the people that I look at. But closer to home, I've still got people in my network who I hold in high regard. Those of you that have been in business for 20 plus years and just give so much. I'm always looking at them. And then, of course, there's people like yourself, Deb, who really nurtured me in the early years. I don't know if you realise that, and I don't know if other people realise, but I'm actually incredibly shy.
Well, I saw a post that you put out. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm actually incredibly shy. And if people remember me from sort of 10, 9, 8 years ago, I was quite quiet and I mean, I've never been a shrinking violet, but I did struggle a bit, and people have really nurtured and brought me along the way. So I'm incredibly grateful.
Oh,
for
so
that.
that's, and again, how lovely that you lent into those role models, those inspirational small business owners at the time, and now here you are, as I say, being an absolute and really rocking that role model status without a doubt. So running your business, as we know, it's a complete roller coaster. Especially those early years, as we know, many businesses fail, unfortunately, because they don't have the resilience or they don't have the right strategies in place. So, what was your worst business low, and how did you overcome
Oh
it?
my goodness, my worst. I don't know. I've had so many worst. Like you've had so many highs, I've had so many worst. I want to say the first 2 years were incredibly rocky. I mean, people talk about 90% of businesses fail within the first year. And yes, I kind of did a post after year one saying, congratulations, I made it. But I really wasn't making any money. And some people know, but my husband and I went into separate businesses at the same time. So there was no one else to kind of pay the household bills. It was a real struggle. I was grateful. My mum cooking meals for us sometimes, and friends and family who would support. That was a real tough period. I don't wish to revisit them. The first 2 years of business, and then there are lots of other things that happen. I lost a big client at one stage, and you always think that's the end because you've got this scarcity mindset and you've never done this before. So I remember the first time I lost a big client, and I thought, oh my goodness, like that's the end of that. But absolutely, it's not. That client just made way for another client to come in. I think it's never as bad as you think it is once you are in the position of looking back. But when you're in those things in the moment, it feels. Yeah, it feels
does
tough.
feel scary, doesn't it?
COVID was a real horrific period of time. And unlike probably a lot of other small businesses, I was in a fortunate position in that employment law was highly necessary. It came at the right time in as much as we were already somewhat established. And so I was getting good media coverage, both locally and nationally, which meant that I was getting new clients almost daily for quite a period of time. But actually that was really stressful. We moved the office to working from home. I onboarded a new member of staff while I was at home. My daughter was going through her 11 plus. I'm not a great teacher. I don't have any patience.
Homeschooling must have
been, that's another period of time which I don't wish to revisit, but lots of lessons learned about resilience, and I am grateful because I think if I'd started the business maybe a year before COVID, then that would have been the end of the business. But thankfully, we'd already been fairly embedded by that time.
Well, and you'd put in place those systems and processes, hadn't you, by that point? So, ultimately you...
I mean, I've always had some systems and processes, but we weren't fully remote. We weren't fully cloud-based at that time. So we had some things on the cloud, some things not. I remember I had one phone handset, and then it was like, well, if we're all working from home, we need VoIP. We need to be able to all answer the phone. It was things like that. We were not familiar. Zoom wasn't a thing.
No, absolutely it wasn't. That was a steep learning curve for many of us.
So, Zoom wasn't a thing. Having an only child is not an easy thing. During COVID, I was quite jealous of people who had multiple, and I know they were squabbling, but they seemed to be able to play with each other, whereas I had no time for my daughter because I was so busy responding to queries. And nothing prepares you for the emotional burden that you take on with your clients, because we all know I know all of our clients really well. And they would be crying on Zoom calls and phone, because some of them were about to lose their business or just at their wits' end. So all the systems and processes in the world couldn't prepare you for that.
No, absolutely. But, again, testament to your resilience that you worked through it, and here you are celebrating 10 years. So
yeah,
it's all good.
It's all good, yeah.
So from your business persona, it looks like you're very organised and you're very driven. I've just spoken to systems and processes. So how do you make sure that you do achieve your business goals and your targets?
Well, I don't want to give anybody any false opinions. I am very driven and I'm very good at giving advice. I'm not very organised, and I think anybody who works with me is always like, oh my goodness, how do you work well under pressure? Like, I've got no choice. I do set goals though. Like I set goals a little bit in advance. I'm not one of these people who is able to see the big picture. Again, I wish I was that person, but I really only can see one foot in front of the other or a couple of steps in front. So I set goals quarterly, and I just make sure we achieve them. But I'm flexible about the how. I'm really stubborn about what my goals are, but I'm really flexible about how we achieve them.
Oh, but that's key. I think in small businesses, flexibility is one of the reasons why, you do succeed. You have to be, the fact that we can pivot, adjust to, respond to chaos works really well. So
and being open to ideas, like with my team, it's not a one-woman show. You might see my face a lot of the time because they like to be behind the camera. But it's not a one-woman show. So we'll have quarterly meetings. Doesn't matter what your position is within the team. If you've got an opinion, I want to hear it. It's either going to be a yes or a no, or let's see what we can do. But and not just my team of staff, but also my business friend, some of my family members. You can't take advice from everyone because some people don't know what they're talking about. And the people that you take advice from have to have a little bit of, a little bit of delulu. Like they have to be those kind of, be an astronaut kind of person because, lots of people aren't. You can't take advice from them. You have to hush that noise.
And you mentioned your team. So you've built this team slowly and they've clearly all got a lot of respect for you. That's very obvious when you speak to any of them. And even on an email, it's very obvious. They hold you in high regard. So what do you think makes you a good boss?
I'd like to say I'm quite empathetic. I'd like to say that I could pick up on things. I'm quite flexible. Again, I've got my goals, so I want the work done. But I'm quite flexible in how that is achieved within reason. And I think people just appreciate being treated like people. I have been employed, so I have the benefit of knowing what awful bosses are like. Also, we have a couple of them on our client list. So,
you're reminded on a regular basis how you don't want to be.
Don't want to be like that. But I'm also not a pushover. So, I'm like, it's give and take. Yeah. It's a good give and take relationship.
Well, you've obviously created a good balance because, as I say, just speaking to the team, they are certainly engaged and they certainly, as I say, they hold you in very high regard, which is lovely. And testament to your hard work, obviously. So, and as we mentioned the Shine, I wanted to highlight it because, as you said, you've been in business 10 years, so a lot of people who will know you now or see you, or even your clients probably think, Jemma, Shine? No way. But it was a lovely post you put on LinkedIn. And, how do you overcome that? And, what tips would you give a new business owner starting out who perhaps does suffer from shyness and doesn't quite know how to overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had to pick two hards, and the one hard was not making a success of the business or sticking with my shyness, and I wasn't going to fail, so...
That stubborn determination.
So, I had to get over it quite quickly. Firstly, I think it's important to have good people around you. I always, I've mentioned it before, but Lisa Settle and Grace Kelly were so wonderful. They're wonderful now, but especially in those early days of taking me in their arms and introducing me to people. So I think if you find good people, stick with them. And good people, they know that you need to be introduced to people. They will do those introductions. But absolutely make sure you pay it forward when you get in that position to, do the same for somebody else. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And I'd hope that's what I do. I should probably talk a little bit about what that post was. So I went to a networking event last week in London, in St Paul's, out of my usual area of networking. But I went because the business does need to keep on growing. And as much as I love Kent, our clients are actually nationwide. We're a Kent business, but we serve clients all over. We even have a couple of international clients. So, as I always say, we're global, baby.
Yeah, too right. And you're an international speaker. I mean, we must remember that point.
Yeah, there is that too. So I wanted to go to something that I wouldn't usually go to, and I went to, I'd call it quite a high-ticket networking event. And I knew I wouldn't know anybody. Now, in the early days when I started networking in Kent, it was tough because I didn't know anybody. But then you get this kind of sense of security because you've met some people, so you'll always know 2 or 3 people, or in my case, a quarter of the room, but because you've been doing it over and it's the same faces that tend to network. But I know I need to push myself outside of my comfort zone. And as I was traveling up on the train, I was thinking, oh, like this feels like day one. It's not day one. And I know once I start talking, I'll be fine. But yeah, it's going to be tough. So I did a few things. In fact, before I was traveling on the train, I did a few things. The event, which was held by a lady called Jerry, fabulous event, the London Connectors, I think it's called, and Collective, rather, the London Collective. So she sent out the guest list, the delegate list, a couple of days before the event, which is, some people do that. I think you do that, don't you? Yeah, some people do that. And I thought, I'm going to connect with 7 random people. And just see if I can then meet them at the event. So went on LinkedIn, and the first person I connected with message, and I said, sorry, hi, I'm Jemma, I'm going to this event tomorrow. I see you're going too, just thought I'd connect ahead of the event. And he messaged me back, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you messaged me, because I was so nervous.
So
I don't know anybody.
How lovely.
He was like, oh, I'm so nervous, I didn't think I'd know anybody, but I'll look out for you. And that just shows, as hard as you think it is for you, other people are thinking the same. And I pretty much had the similar response from 2 or 3 other people who I'd messaged. There was one person who hadn't seen the connection request and connected with me at the event. But yeah, we'd see each other from across the room and they'd be like, hi. So you then feel like you know someone even though you don't know someone. I think that's a great tip if you get that list. I headed straight to the bar, and I always said it wasn't for Dutch courage, but if there's ever food or drink in one place, that's a great hub. That's where people are going to walk towards, and it's easier to start conversations at the bar than it is even
if you talk about the food and the drink.
Right. Even if you're like, so what's your tipple then? Even if that's the opening line, you've got something to talk about. And they're going to be there for a little while. And if they're eating, even better, because they'll have to listen to you. They know what their mouth is for. So, so that was my other thing that I did, is I went straight to the bar, and immediately that worked. I spoke to a couple of ladies whilst I was at the bar. And then the other thing that's also quite important, which is, I don't always manage this, but if you're really nervous, is get there early, because there's something about people coming into you rather than you going to a networking event where people know each other and you're trying to break into this 2 or 3 or 5 group of established friends. So if they're coming in towards you, it makes things a bit easier. So that'd be my networking tips.
And that's absolutely brilliant. And it's that planning ahead. I think it doesn't matter which networking event you go to, whether it's a really local small one, and you think you're going to know everybody in the room, but if you can plan ahead, even if you don't know. If people don't send a delegate list, but it's like, what do you want to get out of the networking event? And I think you're brilliant at that. You go with a purpose. You don't go just thinking, oh well, this will be great. I mean, not from there might be one, obviously, if there was like wine tasting or something, but there are others where you go with a purpose in mind. And I think that's really important.
And then another thing that I did as well is I looked at the previous posts. So I looked to see who had posted before. I'd say 7 random people, but some of the things that I did was to look to see who'd posted about them. So you know who the key players are, who the people are who will shout and talk about the event. So then you can go and speak to them and say to them, oh, I see you've been before. I'm not really a stalker, but I am, I've seen you've been before. So, what do you like about this event?
So you said that was kind of outside your comfort zone. Are you now in a position that you try to do that on a regular basis, or is this like a new Jemma, stepping out?
I think this is a new me trying to do this on a more regular basis. Someone commented actually on that post. I mean, lots of people commented, and it's amazing how many other people feel the same, and seemingly confident people as well. I think you can be confident and shy at the same time, though. I don't think it's necessarily a juxtaposition.
No, I agree.
But someone commented and said, well, I couldn't do what you do and speak to large groups of people, but I've always found that easier. I don't mind speaking to a sea of people because I don't have to look any one specific person in the eye. I also think they're not really listening. I don't mind speaking to 4,000 people, but breaking into those little huddles of 2 or 3 people, that's way more scary for me.
Yeah, it feels very personal. And you're kind of entering someone's personal space as well, I think, which is different. When you're standing on a stage or at the front of a room and you're speaking to other people, you're owning your own space. No one's intruding into that. So
exactly. And most of the time I know what I'm talking about. So that's not,
I would say all
bad.
the time,
Yeah.
So I really kind of wanted to touch on kind of what for you is important in terms of keeping you Gemma. So, you know, you've been in business a while. We learned to navigate the highs and the lows, which, you know, you shared a couple of those. So we design our own coping strategies. So what are your weekly, would you say, non-negotiables that have to happen to keep you sane and keep you on track?
I go to the gym and I have silence. So don't have silence at the gym, because who can do that? Who can work out in silence? I started this fitness journey a couple of years ago, and I think it's been one of the saving graces. It's really important for me to have that me time. You know, I'm in a position where I'm always needed by somebody. Mum, you know, Gemma. So I'm somebody's, you know, always somebody's something.
Yes, you wear lots of hats.
Yeah, and going to the gym is my time. And I'm so busy, you know, trying to just breathe through the gruesome exercises that I haven't got time to think about anything else other than that. That's really important. And I really, when people ask, what's your favourite thing to do? I'm like, I love to sit in silence. So probably every day I sit in silence for about 20. I'm in silence. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not talking to anybody. I rarely watch television, so I'm not watching TV. There's no TV in the background. I'll just sit there in silence. I love it. I love to sit there in silence.
And you carve that out in a particular space, or could you be in your car, at the office, at home?
Oh, the car, amazing. The car is an office. Come on. Like, who doesn't love sitting in their car?
I love my car because it's got heated seats. Yeah. So I stay in there extra long so that I can keep warm and do the work.
So yeah, sometimes when I get home, if I'm feeling that need, a bit overwhelmed, I will sit in the car for 20 minutes. I will. You know, my neighbour even said to me the other day, you know that you don't have to pay, you still have to pay council tax if you sit out here, don't you? I was like, yeah, but this is my space. So, you know. But also in my bedroom, sometimes I'll just go up and, so I'm just going to go and sit upstairs for a little bit now. And sometimes I get away with that, sometimes I don't. You know.
But it's great to recognise that there are two things that you can hang your hat on. And if they haven't happened by the end of the week, I guess, you know, for you feel like this has been the worst week ever. So, yeah, it's brilliant. And I think as an established business owner, it's really good that we have those things and we stand by them so that we can continue on and continue to be successful and to serve everybody that you serve, right? I mean, that's what we love doing. So how do you, Jemma, maintain your own you've got a really strong personal brand and yet you've got a very established company brand. So how do you make sure that you've got your strong personal brand sitting alongside your company brand?
I mean, I wish I could say it was a definite strategy. So, like on LinkedIn, I'm quite deliberate about what I post. So if you follow Orchard Employment Law, you will get lots of employment law kind of posts, and it's got a reasonable following on there. And some people are on there that don't follow me, and that's fine. Some people do follow me. And on my LinkedIn personal profile, you'll get a mixed bag of everything. So sometimes I might talk about employment law. I might talk about being shy or going to a concert. Recently went to Usher, so I'll be posting about that soon. That's amazing. So yeah, I think that is where I let my personality shine a bit more. And the business brand, again, because it's not just me, I want it to showcase some of the other people that I work with. So we try not to use stock images. We always use our own photos. I always say to like the marketing people that help with our socials, I'm like, I'm seeing my face a bit too much. Can we mix that up? You know, I need to see some other faces. And I think that is quite important as well in establishing that's the brand, and then this is me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a difficult balance, and certainly certainly us on the outside seeing the LinkedIn persona, Instagram, it feels like it works because, as you say, it's not like you're flooding those platforms with it's just about you, and it feels like you're never in the office working, because clearly you absolutely are, and you can see that. And I think that's a difficult balance. So it looks like you're doing it really well. So it's an established practice for businesses who want to build their brand but still have a founder who is the face of the business. So it's a tricky one to do. So no, it looks like you're doing it really, really well. It looks like you're very comfortable now in front of, as I say, although you may feel that inner shyness, particularly in a social situation, but it looks like you're comfortable in front of a camera now.
Oh yeah, I've had so many cameras shoved in my face. I'm totally comfortable. I'm like, right, come on, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Bosh. One time, one take, we're doing that. Yeah, very comfortable in front of a a camera and a microphone, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm a performer. This is the other thing is I've been singing my whole life. So I'm used to singing on a stage. I think that's just part and parcel of Jemma. Anybody who knows Jemma, even as a 7-year-old, knows that she was singing at weddings to 300 people. So she's used to standing on a stage. Very different experience to, obviously, 2 to 3 people conversations. But yeah, that's it.
But it's a great strategy to use, the performance. It's all about that. So you touched there on, a little bit of your private, personal journey. So in terms of thinking about some of the things that make you feel good, make you feel like, just mum or, just wife, just, sister, daughter, for you, I know that shoes are really important for you, and they're very important for me as well. So I couldn't not talk about, that personal side. So have you changed the shoes you buy now from when you first started your business?
Yeah, because I could afford better shoes. Well, not better shoes, but more of the shoes that I desired. So, yeah.
And have you got like a power shoe that when you are perhaps feeling a little bit nervous, or you think, oh my goodness, I'm not quite sure how this one's going to go, have you got a particular pair of shoes that you're like, yes, I've got to bring those out?
No, but I do love my Sophia Websters, though.
We all love
I do love those, though. I think they're a stunning pair of shoes. Like you can just look down at them and feel nice.
Exactly. You
Make
feel
you happy.
even if you're really struggling with a conversation, it's like, I'm wearing the shoe, rocking the shoes. So, oh, that's lovely. And I couldn't, as I say, I couldn't not mention shoes. Clearly, a very generous business owner in every respect, particularly with your time. So you're the South East Policy Lead for the Federation of Small Businesses, which is a volunteer role. Why is that volunteering aspect so important to you, and what does it bring both you and the business?
Yeah, do you know, I keep on saying this, but I've only been able to be in business for 10 years because of the time and knowledge that people have given me. And I have no idea why they've chosen to give it to me. Maybe they're just generous people. But people have done that for me, and I really feel the need to pay it forward. So I am by nature an advocate. That's what being an employment lawyer is. You do advocacy, you advocate on behalf of others. And so I guess that's in my core, But I also think it's really important as a woman, as a black woman, as, so many other things to show people that you can be it. It's not about being boastful or important. It's actually just not about me at all. It's about being there to advocate on behalf of others and also to show people that it can be done.
Yeah, and that is, as I say, that's why, for me, role modelling is just huge. And the fact that you're already a great role model, but by stepping into that visibility of volunteering role, I think it just opens up that aspect to so many more as well. So no, well done, and thank you from FSB's perspective. It's absolutely brilliant having you on board. So again, I had to talk about the shoes, and I can't not talk about your amazing entrepreneurial daughter, Kimora. So what are you telling your daughter that you wish you knew at her age? And if someone had told you, though, would you have taken notice?
I mean, I took no notice of anything anybody told me at that age. So. Well, I say that maybe I did take a little bit of notice. To push outside your comfort zone is really important. So you'll notice when I do exhibitions and things like that, she comes along to those things and she gets paid. I mean, she's a hard businesswoman, There is
She's a good negotiator,
what?
is she?
I try and lower the price goes up. I'm like, no, you don't understand how this works. But she's absolutely serious. I've got a roof over my head. I don't need to work for this. I'm like, yeah, but I provide the roof. But no, in all seriousness, I think it's really important to know your value. And she knows what minimum wage is. She knows what, although there is none for her age, might I add. But she knows what her value is and what she should be entitled to. And she also understands when you're not quite proficient at that. So you're going to have to take a little bit less whilst you're getting used to that. And she's like me as well, actually. She's, I would say, intrinsically quite a shy person, although nobody ever believes it. She's a swan. But she's very good at, coming out on exhibitions. And I mean, she's been doing it since she was 4, networking with me. Recently, last year we were at an exhibition, everyone was asking her, so you doing your A-levels? And she was like, no, I'm in year 10. And I think maybe she does look a bit older, but mostly it's the maturity of having done, she's been in that journey with me. 5 years old, 6 years old, I was dragging her to Get Social and all sorts of different events with me because I didn't have a babysitter and I wasn't going to just not do anything. I knew she could behave, so off you pop. Plus, people take a business card from a cute 7-year-old more than they'll take it from me.
She was part of your marketing strategy, basically.
So...
no, but she's been a massive part of that business journey, so she has to be celebrated along with the shoes, obviously. So, right, I've got a few little questions that are just one-word answers, and then we'll kind of start, if it's okay with you, then we'll kind of perhaps just look forward a little bit to the next 10 years, because I know there's going to be more, obviously, than 10. But so, one guilty pleasure.
Other than shoes?
Yeah.
Trash TV.
Nice. Anything in particular?
I love a Real Housewives kind of thing, yeah.
Favourite cocktail on a girls' night out?
Porn star martini,
absolutely. Of course, absolutely. One quote you love that gets you fired up?
If you can see it, you can be it.
Yes, perfect. All-time favourite business book?
Screw it, let's do it.
I love it. And most embarrassing business moment?
Have I had too many of those?
That's good, then.
I don't think I've had too many of those, actually. Yeah, I don't think I've had too many.
Oh, well, that's okay. I've probably had your share, so that's okay. Thank you for those. I just thought, just a nice little, again, just getting under the bonnet of the real Jemma. So thinking now about what does the future hold? So what do you do differently now than when you first started out?
I do so much differently. When I first started, I'm really precious about my 20% time. So my Fridays are always my on the business day. That's the day we work from home. And although I was told to do that in year 1, I didn't do it in year 1.
Who does? I don't know many that do.
So that's something that, again, I'm quite precious about doing. I don't badger people. Not that I was badgering people, but I was more desperate for the business. And now I'll just tell people what we do and leave it with them. Sometimes they come back immediately, sometimes 3-5 years later, sometimes they don't at all. It's okay. And I don't lower my price. Actually, that's quite important. I don't lower my price. I know we're not the cheapest.
But you know your value.
Well, I know our value. I know we deliver good work. And so I don't try and fit into anybody's box. And, we talk about shoes, but I think if we were to, I was looking back at some old pictures, and if we were to look at my style over the years, you can literally see me coming out of my shell. The first couple of years, I was really trying to be quite corporate and typical of how you would expect, someone who does what I do to look. And most of my shoes were black, and most of my, pinafores and blazers and jackets. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But now, despite what I'm wearing today, I love a pop of colour. I love, a fabulous shoe. I just love to inject my bit of
your personality. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've got a very distinct brand personality now. Thank you. It's absolutely fabulous. Keep going. Do you think that tech and AI will change auction employment over the next 10 years?
It's already changing it. So we are already using AI. I had a fabulous chat with the person who runs this podcast studio today about a bit of AI that can help with podcasts. We already use a software called MeetGeek, which joins all of our meetings.
I recommended it to Zelda Catano, who you know. Yeah, she runs lots of meetings and is struggling.
It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And so what that does, it records every meeting. And the bigger we get, the bigger companies we work with, the more complex the cases we work with. It's really important that all of our advice is recorded. So, we've got more risk attached. So it records those meetings. But even better than that, and transcribes them, but even better than that is it sends you action points, like next steps. This is what was discussed, and these are the next steps. And that's something we're already doing. Someone asked me actually last night when I was at an event whether I would use AI or ChatGPT for things like looking up case law. And I have dabbled with it a little bit to see what happens. At the moment, it's just not sophisticated enough to do what we need it to do. And if it doesn't know something, it makes it up. you know. So, but what it is good at is if I know that there's a case and I don't want to read 30 pages of this case, previous case law, I can say, upload this case law, this judgment. Can you summarise the findings of that? And then I will then double check and say, can you show me where in the judgment it says that? Because that's quite important as well. So, you know, I absolutely think AI is part of orchard employment law now, and it's definitely going to be more so in the future.
Yeah. No, and I think you're absolutely right. Understanding it and being able to use it to your advantage is key, really, because you can, as you said, you can ask it, how have you referenced that? What has brought you to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Please, provide the information. And if they don't know, they said, it does tell you, well, actually, do you know what? This is new. We've generated it ourselves. So you can't rely on that. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw my post the other day about how I'd asked it to create the action figure. I jumped on the bandwagon trend. And then it just kept changing. Like, it made me fatter or darker skinned or dropped the business bit or dropped the law bit. And I asked it, because you can have a conversation with these things. That's not really accurate. Where did you get that from? Are you biased? And it said, well, I'm not biased, but, my creators might have been. And I based on what I give based on numbers of things within the internet. Some of them might be true or untrue, but yeah.
And that's good. It's just having that awareness, isn't it? That you're not wholly relying on it, but are using it as a business tool. So, I mean, if you're already using it, you're embracing it, what do you see as the biggest challenge to orchard employment your law over the next 10 years then?
So what we're already seeing is people coming to us and saying, in fact, I had a couple of, maybe about 18 months ago, a potential client talked to us. He became a client and he said, how much is it for an employment contract? And I told him, and he went, why wouldn't I just get that on ChatGPT? I went, you know what? You do it and send it to me. I'd love to see what you come up with. And it was pretty good. It wasn't awful, but it had some Americanisms in there, not just the way that it spells and words things, but also things that were more applicable to American law than it was UK law. It didn't offer all the protections that we would offer. It's a bot at the end of the day. So it's like, well, you can stick with that, which will do you. But if you want the A-star service, however, you still need humans to overlook things. So I think we are going to have more and more people saying, well, I can just use AI. I don't need to get advice from you guys. I think people will say that.
And I think most businesses at the moment are feeling that will be their challenge. And again, great responses to identify which aspects of the business only a human can do, and you guys are clearly already doing that. So what do you now say no to that you always used to say yes to?
Oh, in fact, yesterday somebody offered me a chance to be part of a board of something, and I said no because I don't have the time for it, and I'd rather not do a half job. I'd rather do a full job rather than a half job, so I'd just say no. And sometimes people used to ask us to do things like business-wise that wasn't really what we do, but we'd just try and do it anyway. Most of the time we're like, nah, we'll refer you to somebody good, but we're not doing that.
And it's great to have that confidence and that experience to know you don't have to say yes to everything, which, I think all businesses at the startup stage go through that panic of got to say yes to absolutely everything. So it's great, again, that you can say no and you know when to say no. So what do you want to be remembered and recognised for?
I'd like to think, obviously I'd like to be the go-to person when it comes to employment law and the go-to organisation. But I feel like over 10 years I've got a bit more to offer now. I think I'd like to share my business knowledge. I'd like to be seen as somebody who knows what they're talking about on all sorts of things, business and current affairs-wise. I'd like to.
So is there a particular stage or a particular programme that you aspire to be on to be able to share that amazing knowledge?
No, but that is a good question. I should probably think of a programme and see if I can get myself there.
Yes, put it out there.
Yeah,
and see who can help you get there. So what's one thing you've learned about yourself through running a business, and how has it shaped your approach for the future?
I can do so much more than I ever thought I could do. And now the sky's the limit.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. And then finally, your all-time single top tip for women starting up a business.
Build your network before you need it.
Brilliant. Well done. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, it's good. Thanks, Deb. Hopefully, people find that a bit useful.
Well, there's amazing tips in there. Loads of just added value in every respect, I think.
No, thank you.